I probably don't have a typical life story. I have lived in extreme poverty. I have lived in an orphanage. I have survived a devastating earthquake. I have had to start life all over and adjust to strangers and learn a new language. My name is Destina, and this is my story. I love telling this story. It will always be part of me. This story has changed my life in ways I will never forget. I was born on September 3rd, 2003, or at least that is the date that my adoptive parents picked for me because there was no official record of my birth. I was born in Haiti. I have some very vivid memories of those early years of my life. I remember having a mom and a dad and older siblings, but I can't remember how many. I did have a younger brother. His name was Jean-Rode. Haiti is known for being one of the poorest countries in the Western Hemisphere, which means I grew up poor. We barely had enough money or food. We may have not had everything. But I was happy. I knew my parents were doing their best to give me a life and make sure I was happy. I remember my mom and I remember picking bananas and planting all kinds of foods so we could sell them and make some money. On the other hand, my dad wasn't the dream parent. I don't really remember my dad. All I knew is that he would come home drunk. I remember my mom wouldn't let him in the house because of that, or near the kids for that matter. I remember that my dad was in a very serious accident and missing a leg, then he died the day after. This left my mother with children that she could not take care of. I remember planting peanuts, and when it was time to harvest the peanuts, I would always eat more than I saved because I was so hungry. The next vivid memory I have is of my mother taking me and my little brother to the orphanage because she could not feed us. It was my responsibility to take care of Jean-Rode. I became his mother. I did everything for him every day. One day, I could hear my mother outside the gates calling my name, and I was crying for my mother. But she was never allowed back in to see us. But I never doubted that she loved me. It wasn't long before my little brother was adopted by a family from France. I never saw him again, and I was now alone. Then, I remember a group of Americans coming to the orphanage, and I put on my favorite blue crushed velvet dress so that maybe they would pick me to be part of their family. They didn't. They chose the little babies and took them off to the hotel for the week. Some of the people came back to help at the orphanage, and I started following around this cute white girl, and asking her if she was my mama. She was so sweet and nice to me, but at the end of the week, she left. Life at the orphanage was not easy. There was never enough food. We woke up hungry and went to bed hungry. I remember eating a handful of salt, toothpaste that Americans left, and anything else we could get in our hands. The older kids were also in charge of the younger kids. So after my brother had left, they gave me a newborn baby to take care of, and he was only 2 weeks old. Most of the time we played, also had to clean. And if we did anything wrong, we had to kneel, cover our face, and we would get hit over and over again with a stick. I tried hard not to get in trouble. Life was hard, but I tried to be helpful and get along with the other kids. For fun, we would sing while we were cleaning and doing chores. Think of the movie Annie, but a lot worse. Then one day, the group of Americans came back, and I was picked to go with one of the families. Little did I know that the cute white girl I followed around the orphanage was asking her if she would be my mama. Went back to the hotel every night and begged her parents to adopt me. They went home after the first trip and decided to adopt me too. That was the best week of my life. I didn't really understand what was going on, but all I knew was that these nice white people took me to a hotel and gave me toys to play with, new clothes, and all the food I could eat. We swam in a pool, we cuddled and watched movies, and I felt loved. I really didn't understand what had happened when all of a sudden the white people got into one car and we got into a different car and we were taken back to orphanage. I remember thinking, that was as good as it was ever going to get, and I would never forget that week. This continued to happen every couple of months. My new white mom would come down and visit me for a week and then leave. I didn't understand that long process of adoption, but I started to understand that she would leave me at the end of the week. January 2010 was the day that changed my whole life. It wasn't the change I was hoping for or that I had been praying for. It was the day the massive earthquake hit Haiti. It started as just a normal day, everyone was minding their own business, but I was playing with my friends outside. We had been playing all day, when all of a sudden, the ground started rumbling. Soon, all we could hear was screaming, and we all could hear buildings falling around. As Haitians, we didn't know what was going on. We didn't have a TV or any warning or information. Most of us had no idea what was an earthquake, most of us had no idea what an earthquake was. And as a 5-year-old little girl, I was terrified. When the ground started shaking, I just got up and started to run. I didn't know where I was running, but while I was running and freaking out, I hit my head and again I fell. Getting up was a challenge because the ground was still moving. As I was getting up, I saw a little kid sitting by the wall in the orphanage. Without thinking about my own safety or worrying about the wall falling on me, I went and grabbed the little kid and went outside. After the ground stopped shaking, there wasn't that much to do, so we all just stood in the street, watching the buildings fall, watching families cry because they just lost a loved one. Some were on their knees praying where a building fell on because they knew a loved one was trapped inside. I started praying in my head. That night I could not sleep. There would be days filled with aftershocks. It was so hard to sleep. We were sleeping on the street with no blankets or pillows because everything was destroyed. I remember staring at the stars, just thinking about what just happened, wondering what was going to happen next. I don't remember how many days we spent sleeping on the streets, but I do remember when I woke up, it wasn't a dream. My country was destroyed. Hundreds of thousands of people had died or were badly injured. The roads were covered with rubble and dead bodies. There was nothing we could do. We spent several days living on the street. I went several days with nothing to eat. There was even a road because they were covered with bricks and bodies. There was nothing we could do. Everywhere you look was a destruction. I felt hopeless. After about 3 days, we were taken to a different orphanage, not too far away from that one that was damaged as ours. We were given some food. The kids were fighting over the food. I was still in charge of my little baby, and I needed to make sure he ate, so I gave him most of my food. I wasn't sure what was going on, but I was scared all the time. I didn't know if I was gonna be alive the next day. I had seen so many kids die. It was just dumb luck that I had been outside playing at the time the earthquake because so many of the kids I was living with were inside the building and didn't make it. Even at the new orphanage, we slept outside because we were afraid of another earthquake, and there were still lots of aftershocks. After a few more days, I was told to get back of a truck, and we drove to a different orphanage. As we drove up, I saw my dad standing on the balcony, holding my little sister, wearing an orange t-shirt. It was then that I knew I would be okay. My early years were very hard, but the lessons I have learned and the experiences I have had made me the person I am today. I would not change my life for anything. I don't have a conclusion to this story. It is just beginning, and I have a wonderful life to look forward to with many more experiences ahead of me and lessons to learn.